Hi, Harvey. How's your mood?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm feeling really good. We've just kind of wrapped up the opening and everything. Getting those first few desk segments out of the way can be a bit nervy, but I'm feeling really good, and I think we're in for an exciting day.
So your mood for today is positive, yes?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. This is when we start getting into like the more exciting Counter-Strike, as it were, right? Yesterday we have all the best of ones, which can be a bit unpredictable. But today it's best of threes, so it's like, teams have a lot more choice in terms of the maps, they'll be a lot more prepared. And generally speaking, it tends to be a bit more exciting to watch.
Yeah. I want to ask you about your career points. There's not so much information about you on the internet. Can you tell me what are you proud of?
So I suppose kind of just getting everything sorted and started. I did university for 3 years, and I've just finished that this summer. And then kind of moving full-time into the commentary stuff. And yeah, it's kind of, this is maybe like my fourth, fifth LAN, big international event. So I'm still relatively new to it, but I'm happy that consistently getting enough work and things like that for me. And yeah, feeling good, feeling positive. I had a bit of a moment when I was waiting for my train to come here where I was like, I'm feeling it. I think next year is going to be my year and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling pretty happy with myself.
Could you please tell me about the last tournament that you commented before our LAN tournament?
Yeah, so the last, I suppose, international LAN, I do like a lot of online stuff at home. So I suppose internationally, where, I was there in the same kind of way that, I'm here doing it, and there's big money on the line and big teams and stuff, was in Belgium, in a city called Charleroi, I believe is how they pronounce it. Okay. I'm probably going to get a bit told off for getting that wrong. But yeah, and that was pretty good. It was very different. Like, we were sort of the secondary stream in a sense, covering it in English, myself and my friend Dean Brown. Did a pretty good job, I think, with it. But it's like their main broadcast was in French. So it was really good fun, but it was a lot of work because it was just me and him covering all the games, also doing like analysis and stuff. So it was quite a bit of work. Online wise, I mean, it varies. I do a lot like the Mountain Dew League, which is like run by ESEA, the European Champions Cup run by Eden Esports, who have got like LANs coming up in December. And then qualifiers at the moment for the QI Banja Luka, which is going to be next month as well. So online-wise, there's like a lot of work out there. Counter-Strike is great in that sense that there's a lot of stuff to do. But it's like the offline events are generally more exciting, and have the bigger teams, and it's a bigger payday for all the teams and everything. So they tend to, give it their all and everything. So it'd be nice, hopefully, touch wood, as we say in the UK, that it kind of continues this way and, keeps going on.
How do you improve yourself? Like maybe some guides? Do you read some guides?
Yeah, so this is sort of all I've wanted to do since I was like 15, right? So very young. I come from like a bit of an acting background. Both my parents are actors, so it's kind of like a culmination of the acting and the gaming comes to esports commentary, right? It marries quite well. And early on, when I was looking to get into it, there's actually, and I kind of recommend it to people, there's quite a good guide out there. I can't remember the title off the top of my head, but it's by Red Eye, which, if you're in the scene, you know the name.
Yeah.
And he has written, it's only like 5 or 6 pages long, but it's like a nice article on, and I think it's called So You Want to Be a Caster, something along those lines, right? And that was a really good way for me to get a lot of early advice, a lot of early sort of problems out of the way. And then there's a few ways. I think it's very similar to the way that like pros would improve. So you go back and watch yourself and listen to yourself, and figure out, okay, this was good, let's make sure we do that more often. This was bad, let's maybe get it out. I used to, a big one for a lot of casters starting out is like crutch phrases, if that makes sense, in the sense that it's like something that you keep going back to, or like a word that you keep repeating and people are going to pick up on it. And I used to say, to be fair, quite a lot, right? So it's like, that was a pretty good round, to be fair, and it got a bit ridiculous. So I had to get that out, right? And then another way is by watching the best, so the Sadakis and the Henry G's and the machines in our, Semler, Anders, there's long lists, and I'm doing an injustice to some of the names that I'm not mentioning, right? And they're across other esports. I used to watch a lot of League of Legends early on, So Quick Shot and Deficio there are two big names that stand out to me. Captain Flowers at the moment isn't. So you watch like the best, the guys who have kind of made it, who are at the top of their game, and learn from them. What do they do well? Learn from your contemporaries as well. Mitch and Dinko, who are the other two, like the other duo that are casting this event. Yesterday I picked up on they very nicely, there was a bit of intense action going on where a guy got like 2 kills through a smoke, and they threw to each other in that action, which doesn't usually happen. You know what I mean? You see a big play coming and you kind of want to be a bit selfish. You kind of want to stick it to yourself so that you get the highlight clip. But it's like they had obviously talked about it or whatever, and threw in that action, so it was like a very seamless, and they were both really hyped, and it was really good in that sense. And it's something that like again, at our level, you need to be comfortable with your partner and stuff like that, which can be kind of difficult. I know Hawker and we're good friends and stuff, but it's the first LAN that we've done together. But yeah, I think improving is just all about being like self-aware, not getting too ahead of yourself, not getting too confident. I could come to this event and be like, oh man, I'm the best, I'm going to get all the events now. But it's like, no, you can't really look at it like that. You have to be humble, I think is key.
Yeah. And let's talk about yourself, about your life. Do you have any hobbies besides commenting?
So the acting stuff, theatre, I still try and get into that, to sort of subsidise the casting money. I have a little part-time job at a local theatre, that I do only a few times a month, but that's pretty good for me to stay close to it. I guess I sing a little bit. I like to think, music and things like that is kind of important, expression, all that kind of thing. But other than that, other than like, gaming is probably kind of an obvious one, right? But yeah, other than that, I'd say relatively, just nothing huge. I don't like ride horses or race cars or fish. A lot of English people like to fish. It's just one that comes to mind when you ask me about a hobby. I've got like uncles and stuff. They just love fishing. I don't know why. I think it's boring.
No, not really. Can you tell me about your which was the biggest fish you get?
So I was very young. I've not been for a while, right? But near where I used to live, in a city called Sheffield in England, there was like a massive lake, like sort of down the road from us, and you could get pike. I don't know if they're like very long, and a bit. You've got to be careful. Very sharp teeth and a bit ferocious, right? They're like apex predators or whatever in like that particular area. I think I'd like to say I caught it. It was like me and like an older family friend, really, because I was like 10. I can't remember how, but it was big. It's like from here to here kind of thing.
Whoa.
Yeah, so
That's
a little
fish.
scary, like flapping about everywhere as well. Yeah.
What about your life, like in free time? Do you have family, friends? Do you have enough time for them?
Yeah, it is getting a little harder as it's like picking up. To be honest, and you see like a lot of people in the scene where with all the traveling and stuff like that, once you start, James, who's like Banks, our host, particularly, his son lives here in Kiev with him, and he finds it a bit difficult to be away because his son's very young. They're the formative years, and you don't want to be leaving him without a father figure. But me personally, I have a really good setup. I've finished university. I'm living back with my parents. They are totally cool, with pretty much everything, like the dream of making it and the fact that it's like, not having like hard, I do pay a bit, board and stuff like that, but not having like a hard set amount. It kind of depends on how much I'm getting paid and when it comes in and stuff. My brother's really supportive. I've just been talking to him and he's giving me all these business tips. He's like, take lots of pictures and get lots of Instagrams and stuff and get them tagging, so he's giving me some good advice. And we're into, he's also into the gaming and watches me and stuff like that. So I have like a really good setup. Friends are very, very supportive and stuff like that. And obviously I have a lot of friends that I've made from gaming. Some that like, I know, met them at school and we play games together. Some that I only play with online, but all the same, always get asked, how's it going? Some of them are really good at Counter-Strike actually. I'd like to say, but I'm not that good, honestly. I try, but yeah, a support system's really, really key, I think, to holding you up, like in difficult moments, and when you're maybe waiting on work and stuff. Particularly at my point where it's like I'll email people, and they'll be like, oh yeah, we're kind of interested, and then I send them rates or whatever, and then they're like, oh sorry, we've actually secured some really big talent, and it's like we're not going to use you this time, and it's kind of like, oh well, kind of have to take it, and be cool with it, but it helps to have family there where I can maybe chat to them and ask their opinions, and particularly like I say, my parents being sort of freelancers themselves, like actors and stuff, and my mum's like a corporate speaker, they understand what it's like, going for an audition, and in the acting you don't hear back at all, like, you know what I mean, because there's so many people. So yeah, I think family's really important, and they really do help me through some of the like tough times.
What do you think about Forge of Masters scene setting? Like, what do you think about it in your opinion? Is it good?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the setup is great. We chatted a little bit, off camera yesterday, kind of about how they're trying to add like a different feeling and a different vibe, and recognize like their position, where it's like they understand that it's like a tier 2, tier 3 kind of event with the teams and the money that's on offer and things like that. And obviously, it's building blocks. You've got to build up to something bigger, and I think they're doing that in the perfect way. They're really tapping in these like adverts are very funny. I think they're going to go down very well with viewers and things, and it looks great. The stage looks great. The soundproof booths are a thing that we sort of had for a while in the scene, and then like some events kind of skimp out on them and try not to, because they can be kind of expensive, particularly when they look like trains, and you've always had them like custom built and stuff. But yeah, and the intro stuff is brilliant. I think they're getting a lot of praise for that online, and it seems really clean. And it's like, in terms of the production, it is feeling like a tier 1 event. It is just a question of like getting the teams. Yeah. It's just kind of a question of like getting the teams to bring in the viewers and things like that, and then a bit more money to bring in the teams, right? That's kind of generally how it works, particularly in CS where it's so oversaturated. It's kind of hard to get teams to your event unless they feel like playing it. But we've had also things like players tweeting out that they've been looked after well. We've been looked after well. Like not a care in the world.
And what about suit? Do you like the suit?
Yeah, I love a suit. I used to wear suits at school when I was a little older, doing like my A levels from like 16 to 18, so like college. And yeah, I'm a big fan. It kind of gives you a bit of a different energy, I think, being in a suit, a bit more confidence. And the fact that I've not had to worry about it is brilliant. So yeah, and it fits. Relatively well.
And in your usual life, do you prefer suits or casual clothes?
Generally more casual. It kind of depends, and it makes. I would love to wear a suit every day. It's a fair amount of effort. Can be a bit expensive. And I think I'd look a bit over the top just going to shops in a suit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I was working like an office job, maybe. But even then, these days, a lot of people just go into offices fairly casual. But I don't mind both. It's like, a suit can look great, but then it's also nice to, do something with your fashion, be a bit louder, wear like some chunky boots or whatever, or like a bit of jewelry and stuff that doesn't quite fly with a suit, if that makes sense.
You told me that you're already working with our another casters, and how do you find the working process with them? Is it easy for you? Do you like it?
Yeah, for sure. So the beauty of this event in terms of the talent is I've worked with them all before. James only once, but he's such a great character and very approachable, very friendly. I've done some events with like some of the bigger talent where sometimes because they do so much, you know what I mean? It's sort of like a bit of a stopgap for them or whatever. And they are like tired, or they already have their friends that they want to go and talk to that are also there. But James is great at opening up and being like, look, I know you're new, I know you're inexperienced, this might be a bit daunting for you, things like that. And he eases you away in any questions, whether it's like contacts for other events or whether it's like, how do I do this? What did you think to, my commentary there or whatever? And we worked an event coming up for about a year ago now, which was like my first big international LAN. And he gave me a lot of advice that I've like taken on and used to improve, right? Then we look at, Mitch, Dinko and Hawker. I've been working with them since kind of the very start. Mitch a little less so. if I'm being honest, and I've only casted with him once, even in the online realms. So I think that's part of why, because normally it's Dinko and Hawker are like a solid duo, right? But I think that's part of why for this event, Mitch is working with Dinko, just because they're a bit more familiar with each other, and I'm familiar with Hawker. But like we're all good friends, we get on. You know, we've been like drinking and partying and talking about the difficulties of it, and you know, what do you think I should do about this and things like that. You know, myself and Hawker talking a bit in the cab on the way back, you know, and things like that, and we're all fairly comfortable. And I think that's just the thing, you've got to find these people who you're probably going to be working with for the most part of your career, you know, and we're on this same sort of trajectory on, you know, again, touch wood, on the way up. So it would be good to have people like them, maybe one or two of them at an event that I can just kind of approach that I know, you know, because I did the iBuy Power Masters in America in January, and I didn't really know anyone, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did manage, again, a lot of them were approachable. I did manage to like make some friends there and make some connections, got some more work out of it, which is brilliant, you know. But a little starstruck in a sense as well, because there was a lot of big teams there. So I was kind of like, wow, it's, you know, actually like Device, and I'm a big fan of Steel, who was there and things like that. So that was really cool. But it was some of the talent, you know, it was kind of difficult for me to approach them and talk to them, because I'm a confident guy, but at the same time, you don't want to like butt into a conversation and then make the worst first impression kind of thing. But it's like these guys are all in the same boat, right? You know, Dinko's doing really well for himself. Like he's great at networking, really popular guy. He gets his hair did every week, so you know, you'd hope so, because he's spending a fair amount on it. And Mitch is like really fun to work with. He can be a bit over the top off camera, but on camera tends to control it. And Hawker just has such a great mind for the game, I think. You know, he's so good with the numbers and stuff like that. And like I say, they're just people I work with that I'm comfortable with, and it makes the job easier, for sure.
And I want to ask you, do you agree with the statement like that the game, the impressions of the game depends on the caster, like for the viewer?
Yeah, I think it can. I think it can. The thing is, it's like people come for the games, but they tend to stay for like the production and the voices and the talent and things like that. You know, it's like if there are technical issues, i.e. like I'm deafeningly loud or whatever, people aren't going to stay, right? Or they're just going to mute it, or they're just going to go and watch, you know, another stream, for example, because like this weekend there's another event on, right? You've got to try and compete with that. But yeah, I think the commentary is really, really important, just because it adds to the story. The game, you would hope, is already going to be exciting and full of action and stuff like that, and then the commentator builds on that. So it's like your hype's at like 70-80%, and then your commentator's going, it's like 110, 120%, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's important that you've got like good people behind it, and they can build it. And that tends to be the most important thing. Like I'm quite a laid back kind of guy naturally, and a lot of my early pointers were on like energy and hype and things like that, and I think it's really important, particularly with the offline events and things like that, to bring the fullest amount of energy, which can be hard to do and hard to keep up for the entire day, you know?
Yeah. And for today, you have enough energy to talk, like for analytics?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I'm like 80% black coffee, I think. So, you know.
Do you like coffee?
Yeah. I drink an awful lot, which maybe is not.
Me too.
Like, yeah, the teeth and, you know, it's a bit addictive, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
but, yeah, I think so. I can do quite well with low sleep and high energy and things like that, and always finding the energy. And it's something I've had to work on, but like, I think I've hit a point, like hit a good groove where I can pull the energy out as and when it's needed. I know that some people, you know, Hawker by the end of yesterday, even though we were doing like best of ones and things, I think just the general time he was fatigued. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when we were all like, oh, let's, you know, have a quick drink before we go to bed, we talked to some of the Russian talent and stuff like that. It was fun and everything. And he was like, I just want to go to bed though, and like the whole time he was just like drained, but also trying to be there in the room and stuff like that. So it can be hard. Again, particularly like, you know, once you start doing a LAN like every week or every 2 weeks, it can be really, really tiring. You know, your circadian rhythms are like all over the place and stuff. You don't know when to go to bed and blah, blah, blah. But I tend to do all right with that, I think, as you can probably tell.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like,
Sure.
you know, rolling it off.
How do you imagine your ordinary viewer, like your audience, for whom you're commenting?
Yeah, it's a very difficult question. You have to be
Let's
careful
imagine
not to annoy people. I think it depends. There are some people who are massively supportive, right? No matter what is going on, and they can understand, oh, this game is maybe a little slower, a little, more boring, particularly with the online games where they can be like very outmatched kind of thing. Ends up being very one-sided, which tends to be a little less interesting. And then there are some people who can be, sort of massively negative, and it all kind of depends, because it's like they could be like a big fan of a team, that team's not doing well, and you're like, that's not very good from that team, and then they see you as like, being sort of an enemy of that team, and it's like, it's not quite what I'm doing, I'm trying to like remain impartial, and if they're playing badly, I'm going to call them out on it, kind of thing. Not massively, you don't want to wreck them too hard, and there are some casters that do get pulled up on that, being a bit too negative, but it's definitely like par for the course. But I'd say, generally speaking, like, honestly, some of the best advice, I think, with that kind of thing, right? Your audience are obviously very important, and it's part of why you do it, for the fans. But you kind of have to be careful not to let both ends of the spectrum get to you, because if all you do is listen to the positive stuff, you're never going to criticize yourself. You're never going to think.
So you have to balance.
Right,
yes.
right. And then it's like, if you listen to all the hate, you're just going to bring yourself down. So you kind of have to, either like just stay straight and narrow doing your own thing, or get a healthy mix of the two. It's like, if everyone's saying, I sound weird or whatever phrase I'm using is bad, then obviously I kind of need to stop that. And it's like, if everyone's saying that my energy is really good or whatever, then possibly that is something that I'm doing quite well, right? You kind of have to take bits and pieces from everywhere.
So what could you tell me, not me, but your viewer, if like I'm your viewer, what could you tell to your audience?
I would say try and remain kind of positive. I think it's the better way to be, and try not to be like too negative towards us. Look, it's great because I am literally like shouting at video games. It is an awesome job, but it can be kind of difficult, and it's like when the pressure gets on you a bit, and when people are being like loud in your ears, because for me personally, I think like more negative comments hit you a bit harder. So it's kind of like, you just sort of have to appreciate, in the same way that I can appreciate, if you're angry that a game is lost and you want to blame someone sometimes, and you bet money on it and stuff. That's a big thing with the online games, particularly. Then I can understand kind of where they're coming from. But I think it's like, it's a two-way street, right? Which sort of means that it's like, I do some things, you might not agree with them, but you're going to do some things that I don't quite agree with. So it's definitely a relationship where like viewer and entertainer can't really function without each other. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because just watching the teams, if there was no commentary on any of the games, you may as well just go on HLTV and keep up with the scores that way, and then like watch the Twitch clips afterwards, which I'm sure some people do anyway. But having the commentary just builds them up. You know what I mean? Like I could ring off a whole list of, like, what in God's name is that from Snacks, Happy with one Deeg, Kenny S with the knife out on Inferno against Guardian, all these plays that I remember because it's got Sado's voice on it, it's got Semler's voice on it, it's got Machines, Guardian Stop Blowing My Mind, and all that kind of stuff. Like, there are all these big iconic plays that are boosted by the commentary, by the talent.
Yeah. So I guess we are finished, and I want to thank you for this interview.
That's all right.
And I like that we have this conversation. I guess that's all, and thank you.
All right, brilliant. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.